The Justice Department, Capitol Police, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, they don't want you to see everything that happened on January 6th. They want you to see just what they want to show you. That's what we got from the ridiculous January 6th committee led by Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger. Come on, you know you didn't get the truth. That was made for television propaganda. Well, the full catalog of videos from the January 6th security footage has now been made available to a handful of journalists, including our guest and friend, Julie Kelly, senior writer at American Greatness. And Julie, you've been calling for this for a while. It's been literally a couple of years since you
Yeah.
first pointed out that the Justice Department was covering up what really happened that day.
That's right, Larry. So my first article on this was May of 2021. So this has been 2 years in the making. This was
Yeah.
after the Department of Justice and Capitol Police told judges that all of the clips, all of the footage needed to be kept under very strict protective orders, including when it was used in a case for a January 6th defendant. The DOJ claims that this footage is highly sensitive government material, so basically classified information. The DOJ has handled it as such. The judges have allowed them to handle it as such. And this has been a real battle for more than 2 years. So I need to commend Speaker McCarthy. His staff reached out to me in April and informed me that I would have access to all of this footage. That was at the behest of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, of course, made this a condition, I believe, of her support for Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. So she's been a real warrior since the beginning, someone who I've been able to depend on to expose what's happened, the real truth of January 6th, and now have access to this footage. Overwhelming, I must say, trove
Yeah.
of footage that I just started digging through.
Julie, there are some critics who say, listen, we were told by the Republicans who wanted the majority that they would make these videos available to everyone. First, they were just made available to Tucker Carlson, and he did, I think, a very fine job in describing a few of those videos and showing us an alternative to the party line we'd been hearing. But now it's just you, John Solomon, who we had on earlier in the program tonight, and one other journalist. How do you respond to be able to say, hey, why just a handful of people? Why not be fully transparent and put it out there for everybody?
It's a totally fair criticism. And as I said, no one has called for the public release of this footage more than I have. So I totally get it. But there are a couple of concerns. Number one, I do hope that they will figure out a way to make the relevant portions of this huge trove available to the public soon. So that's not a fight that I'm giving up on. But there are a couple of concerns. After going through this, I can tell you it is extremely difficult and extremely technical there's hundreds of cameras over a few day period before, on, and after January 6th. I think there are a total of 1,700 cameras, but more than 700. Some are missing, so that's another question. But going directly to these cameras and putting in a timestamp, and I had a list of areas and times that I wanted to see it on the 5th and 6th. It is extremely laborious process. So I'm not really even sure how they can upload all of this
Okay.
to a platform where the public can access it. So that's number one. I understand the criticism. Number two, supported Tucker getting access first is these clips have to be sort of like a surgical strike. If you flood the zone with thousands of clips, some that may be taken out of context that might be wrong, you're not going to have a chance to really refute and deconstruct the reigning narrative on January 6th. You'll have all kinds of clips that won't make tell a story or won't
Yeah.
expose the lies that the January 6th committee said or even prosecutors have said. There's also a huge risk, as you know, Larry, there are groups on the internet, one called the Sedition Hunters, and they will take those tapes. They will see people's faces. They will compare that to the list of people who have already been charged, and they will harass them online. And they will
Yeah.
ask the FBI, as I've seen numerous times, why these people haven't been arrested for trespassing on restricted grounds. So there are numerous concerns and technical issues. Again, I hope that those are resolved and soon the American people will have full access. But for now, I hope that they will be satisfied with what we are coming forward with. They will be shocked and appalled at the deceptiveness of this January 6th committee and the scenes inside and outside the Capitol that day that the public has not seen.
Julie, you said that you came to the table yesterday as you first got access to these videos with certain timestamps on those days. Can you give us a hint as to what you're looking for? What things were sort of left out in the January 6th committee that seeing the full picture will actually tell a different story?
I'll tell you, Larry, one of the first things I wanted to find was whoever constructed the noose. Remember the gallows, the noose
Yes.
that just
We
happened to
never got
have
an
the
answer to that. The noose that Mike Pence was going to hang from.
and remember how it was set up so perfectly that the Capitol building was inside the noose so photographers could come and take a photo. So I'll
Yeah.
just say that's one thing that I have been looking for and am looking for because that was such a symbolic scene of that day, right? And it remains so. We were told that the FBI was going to be investigating that. How do you construct something like that on public property and then say that these Trump supporters were going to go in and drag Mike Pence out and hang him at this noose? It's completely disappeared. So that's just one little area that I was looking for. But Larry, I will tell you, for the most part, my focus and what's good is the three of us are coordinating, so we're not stepping on each other's stories.
That's
Is
great.
police misconduct? Is police misconduct that day? Those clips are going to really shock and really shock the American people.
Well, that's great. I was going to ask you if the three of you were coordinating so you didn't redouble efforts. Good to know. Also, there have been suggestions from certain senators and congressmen asking Christopher Wray under oath that there were FBI informants in the Capitol even before the Capitol was breached. And we never got clear answers on that. Is there a way for you to delve into that?
There is, and that's another angle of what we are all looking for is who is inside that building. And again, that's a huge task. I will tell you, even trying to look at the few things, timestamps that I wanted took a very long time because you've got to look at this whole stretch, maybe for a few minutes.
Sure.
So the fact that Christopher Wray refused to answer that question, I believe it was Clay Higgins who confronted him with that, sort of tells me that yes, there definitely were people inside that building before the breach that helped provoke and instigate and create the videos that we've seen on a constant loop for almost 2.5 years.
Julie, you've done a great job also of telling the tale of two different entries into the Capitol. Very different scenarios on one side of the Capitol versus another side where the doors were actually propped open by Capitol Police and people were welcomed in. On the other side, windows were broken and there was some violence, there was some physicality. Is there a way to pinpoint who actually started that? Who actually broke the windows? Who actually assaulted police officers?
Well, it's interesting because there were two men who broke a window early on who have never been identified and never been charged. On
Huh.
the other hand, you have a man named Dominic Pizzola, an oath keeper, who was accused and arrested for using a riot shield to smash one pane that had already been smashed to the Capitol. Of course, he has been sitting in jail since February of 2021 and just convicted on a number of counts in the Proud Boys case. Excuse me if I said Oath Keepers, Proud Boys case.
Yeah, probably.
So, those are the disparities that investigative reporters covering January 6th keep raising. And I think that the video will help answer those
Great.
unanswered questions.
Just a minute left here, Julie, but this is very intriguing. You said you have timestamps from January 5th that you want to look at. What are you looking for on January 5th?
Well, I will say there was a report by Republicans where Paul Irving, the House Sergeant at Arms who worked for Nancy Pelosi, talked about a number of tours that he gave on January 5th. And this would have been sort of a tour, and it was Democrats only, sort of the ceremonial tour about the joint session. But very strangely, he admitted that around 2:30 on the January 5th, he gave a limited tour of the evacuation route from the House chambers. Now, why would you do that considering 24 hours later, that's exactly what happened? So, those are the sort of things that I'm trying to confirm with video. Again, it will be a very laborious process, but hopefully we'll be able to find it.
Well, we'll be watching your work at American Greatness as we always do, Julie Kelly. And when you find something of note, you know where to bring it. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight here on Salem News Channel.